Ah, boys, you never truly understand women until you get divorced from them, you know? Actually, let me rephrase that. The woman that you marry is 100% not the woman that you divorce. And it's not what you think. It's not that I'm against marriage as a whole. What I am against is how it is set up in the woman's favor. How women are incentivized to basically rip men in half in order to just satisfy their own wants and needs based on their emotions at the time. But marriage as a concept is beautiful. Like, I was brought up in a fairly traditional household, right? Find your one girl, your little unicorn, make an honest woman out of her, get married, settle down, have kids. But the reality is far from that image. That's all I'm going to say, boys. But one of the common mistakes that guys make when it comes to getting married, well, first of all, getting married is a really bad deal on paper. So I don't believe that men should be getting married on paper. That's the first thing. But the mistake that they're making in terms of the people that they're marrying is their selection. And what do I mean by that? What do you mean by selection, Ryan? What I mean by selection is getting with a girl that has got a laundry list of previous sexual partners. Okay? A girl that's had a lot of exposure to nightlife. You know, a girl that is infinitely less pure, right? And guys get into these relationships, they tend to just overlook the red flags, and then they just dive head first into this thinking, you know what? I'm special. Her past doesn't matter. She's going to be different for me. And this is the way that I used to think as well, lads, right? I also met a girl. I was with her for about 3 years, and I knew her history. She had had many sexual partners. She was a naughty little rascal, but we had this really exciting and fun relationship, right? There was a lot of love there. I myself was in love, like a little fluff ball. And we had an amazing time, you know. We traveled, we went out on nights out on the weekend, we had the best sex. And of course, with that, there was also turmoil in the relationship as well. But I just thought that that was all part and parcel, the highs and the lows, you know, and this is how relationships typically go. And, you know, me being the, you know, one of 4 siblings, I decided that I was going to marry this girl and I was going to be the first in my family to get married, you know? And I really loved the girl and I thought, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to go for this, right? I'm going to become a man, I'm going to do the right thing, I'm going to make an honest woman out of her, and I'm going to give it everything that I've got. And that's exactly what I did, you know? I set up a wedding in Bali, spent $70,000 on the wedding. And you know what was interesting? I remember when we got married, we stayed on in Bali for a couple of days after. We lived in Spain at the time. Well, I lived in Spain. I was now going to take her back to Spain. We didn't have a visa or anything sorted out, but we had the marriage certificate. And I don't know how we did this, but on transit through Qatar, we got stopped at the airport because she didn't have the visa. And we showed the marriage certificate and somehow we managed to get through into Spain and get stamped. But that's another story for another day. But I can tell you now that instantly after I got married, there was a change in the dynamic. And what I mean by that is the mentality of my woman, now my wife, it shifted completely. What happened was when I got home, literally within a few days, and considering we spent so much money on the wedding trying to get all of that done, she put a demand on me that she wanted to get a boob job. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? We've literally just got married. That's insane. And now you're trying to put, you know, a $10,000 price tag on me here right now to get you your boobs done. But it was moments like that where I was like, oh shit, have I made the wrong choice here? Because to me, that was completely insane. And things really started to progress from there, you know. I remember my sister came to visit me in Spain, maybe a couple of weeks after the wedding. And I remember having a few drinks with my sister and saying to her, I think I've made a huge mistake here, because the woman that I was dating was not the same woman that was now married. Her mindset was completely different. And now it was like, take, take, demands. And the thing was, is like, I was pretty fair and chill with her. You know, she lived a very affluent life. You know, I put her into Spanish business lessons, or business level Spanish lessons, you know, which was fairly expensive back then. You know, we were doing 4 or 5 holidays a year. She had money in the bank. You know, we were essentially living the dream. You know, at least she was anyway. And in terms of like me working, like I was out working all the time, and the things that I was starting to notice is like, she had no interest in like getting any good at cooking, trying to contribute anything. Really, it was like she was just there for the best experiences that she could get, to take whatever she could get, and really just to give the bare fucking minimum. And another thing I want to point out here as well, lads, that I overlooked, is that her circle of friends were not a good bunch of girls. Most of those girls had married into relationships where the guy had money, and then they were out cheating on the side. And me thinking that my woman was the unicorn because I'm so special and I'm so different, would not be doing something like that, was a huge mistake on my side of the fence, right? But let's get to the point where we're actually going to get divorced. How all of this came to a head. You know, one day we were in the kitchen, and out of left field, she started an argument with me, saying that her friends know where all their husband's money is, but she doesn't know where my money is, and that she wants access to it, right? And a point to consider here, lads, as well, is like, she had thousands of euros in the bank, right? We had a boat at the marina. You know, there was no short change in here, right? I was a beast when it came to working, and I was also super generous, you know, when it came to money. And she asked me to get access to half of my net worth. And I kind of looked at her sideways. And then she said to me, in the kitchen, standing next to our coffee machine, she said to me, if you don't give me access to half of our money, then I'm leaving. And in that moment, I was like, holy fuck, okay, this is getting real now. So me being me, of course, I just looked at her and said, well, it looks like you're leaving then, doesn't it? And then went the process of her packing up all of her shit. It took about 4 or 5 days, and her jetting off to Indonesia on my money in her bank account. And that's when the separation began. And during that period of time, you know, even though I'm still a bit of a rascal and, you know, think I'm still a bit of a masculine man or whatever you want to call it, I really wanted to make the marriage work. Like, I wanted it to work. I believe that if I married the girl, I've got to see it through, and I've got to do everything in my power to make this shit work. But I was wrong. But even during that period of time of the separation, I was getting stories back, you know, from my friends in Indonesia. She was out partying, out in nightclubs. You can probably use the imagination to figure out what was going on during that period of time. While I was still back in Spain, working alone, not having dinner cooked for me, nobody around me, and trying to figure out how can I hold my marriage together. So I came across this podcast. There was a guy called James Sexton. He's a divorce lawyer, one of the famous ones in the US. The podcast is fucking amazing. And he has a book, and the book is called If You're in My Office, It's Already Too Late. And it's all about how to make your marriage work. And I thought, okay, I've got an idea. I've got it. I've got the ultimate idea here. I messaged my wife, or soon to be ex-wife, and I said to her, there's this fucking amazing book. I want you to buy it. I'm going to buy it. Why don't we both read it? And then let's meet in the middle and see if we can find a way to salvage this. I had a business trip to Colombia. So I read half of it on the way there, spent 4 days. And then I flew back to Madrid and read the other half. And I remember when I got back, I called up my wife and I asked her, did you get that book? And she goes, yeah, I saw it in the bookshop. I said, okay, cool. Did you buy it? She says, no, I didn't want to spend my money. I didn't want to waste the money. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's my money in your fucking bank and you won't buy the book? And she goes, yeah, no, I just didn't want to waste the money. And I was like, okay. fuck this. The second I put down that fucking telephone, I picked up the call to the lawyer, and that was it. I started the process. And this is where things got really interesting. Once I got everything lined up, I notified her that we were going to get divorced. And then basically she turned into my arch nemesis, right? The little, lovely little girl that I was deeply in love with, that would have done pretty much anything for, was no longer that woman. We went through a back and forth over months that would put most guys mentally in the hole. The problem that I had is that in order to get divorced in Spain, I needed her to be present and to come from Indonesia. So now we were in this power struggle. You know, she didn't want to come, she didn't want to get it done. I wanted this wrapped up so I could get on with my life. And then we get into the negotiation stages. She asked me for business class flights. Now, bearing in mind, she'd never flown business class in her life, ever. And we had agreement she was going to come, and then she kept changing it and going back and forth. Now she was trying to blackmail me. She wanted me to buy her a house. Like, we'd only been married for 18 months, and we had no kids. And the whole thing just turned into a complete fucking nightmare on earth, right? So long story short, after a lot of persuasion on my side of the fence, I actually managed to get her to Spain, you know, to sign those divorce papers. And I remember the day that we got it signed, she had to, you know, stay close to me when she was in Spain. She made me some food the day before she was leaving to go back to Indonesia to live her little life on her own. And I asked her, why did you do that? Why did you try to blackmail me? Why did you make this so fucking hard? Why did you try to extract so much money out of me? And she just looked at me and was like, to be honest, I was just scared. And I wanted to get as much as I could get for myself. Damn. Pretty honest, right? And she apologized, and that was it. We drew the line. And here's the thing, lads. If I had not followed my intuition and the logic here and stepped out of my emotions, I would still be in that marriage today and be miserable, right? So the reality is that all of this is a choice. Now, if I fast forward to my life today, now that I've done my studying on women, I've got all my experiences, I understand frame fully. I understand the female mind and what they respond to. I also became the absolute best version of myself. My life it's night and day now. So the setup with me now is that I have 2 wives. 2. And they live with me happily in my home with my 5-year-old daughter from another relationship. And it's beautiful. Because here's the thing, guys. When it comes to marriage, the right women do not care about the marriage certificate. My women love me so much. They don't care about rings. They don't care about that contract, because they're actually in it for the right reasons. They're in it with the right intentions. And also they're very pure girls, because I selected them properly and I did my due diligence, and I just didn't run in their head first at the first girl, you know, that was good in bed. So these are the things that you need to consider, right? I don't think marriage is a good deal. I don't think you should be getting married on paper, but that does not mean to say that you can't get married under God and do it the right way with the right women. You know, lads, life is short, right? You're getting one spin on this planet. Women are amazing, but you have to choose them correctly. You know, you have to take your time on it, and it's probably not a good idea to be signing a marriage contract, especially if you're a guy that makes money. Be with a woman that comes in with the right intentions, that actually wants to be with you and is going to contribute to your life. Because when divorce comes, it can be very painful, it's very lonely, and what you're going to find is this little unicorn that you're so in love with is not the same person that you were once dealing with, you know? And by the way, if you're struggling with women, you know, holding respect, maintaining frame, selecting the right women, even understanding how to be around women to get the best out of them, click the link below, book in a call with me. I'll see if I can lend a hand with it, lads. All the best.